Here we are in your hometown, sharing looks as the sun goes down. Just a breath until our next kiss. Never knew of a love like this. A love like baby, still loving like crazy, praying that it never ends. Yeah, you and me, darling, we've really got something the world just can't understand. Yeah, it's you and me, falling in love every day till we're both owning gray. Yeah, it's you and me, as long as we live, I'll never know a love like this.
Nate hate pretty woman thing gets me every time. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream.
Friends.
Welcome. Today I am joined by Max and keaNEW Visuals, and we have a really exciting avalanche of fun stuff coming up, and I'll explain that in a minute. Let's just do some quick housekeeping, and then we'll get down to the fun business of things. Okay, so we know that we can go to the Maxon events page, and I think that Max is putting up a link to everything. Max usually works behind the scenes doing everything, putting up all the links and all like the heavy lifting behind the scenes. And then today he gets to be like on camera with us, which is such a treat to have you with us, Max. Max is one of my favorite people.
Thank you so much, man.
So Maxon.net events page, you can see the other webinars that are coming up and also the events that are coming up that we're going to be at. So check that out. We also have this stream will be recorded and put, as with everything else, will be put on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel. So check that out if you want to see today's recording, or if you missed some of it or have to leave early or whatever. And we also have Cineversity.com, which is a free resource to learn all these things. We're just going to be going really rapid fire today. So we're not going to be like digging too deep or starting from scratch from anything. So you'll probably want some more information. And so you can get that here on Cineversity.com. I think that's all that I needed, right? I don't think I need anything else. So anyways, our guest today from Germany is keaNEW Visuals. keaNEW, welcome to the show. It's fantastic to have you all the way from Germany. Also, Max is in Germany. So like I'm the only United States person here, North America person here on this this webinar, which is kind of fun. Also the only person who does not speak more than one language. These guys are all very like fluent in a bunch of different languages. So that's also extremely impressive. So keaNEW, tell us a little bit about yourself. Show us some of your amazing art that you make so we have a frame of reference of where you're coming from.
Cool. Thank you first of all for having me, and that intro just leave me speechless. That was so good. I remember you were asking for a clip with that idea of those 90s vibe intro, and man, it was so well done. Really,
thanks,
props.
man.
That wink,
I was just smiling.
I know the wink,
keaNEW.
that wink. That was so cool, dude.
It was so
perfect.
good. You should have seen my face when you played that intro. Really well done. So yeah, thanks a lot for having me. My name is keaNEW. I'm known as keaNEW Visuals online. Yeah, I'm a visual effects artist, director. I'm filmmaker. I don't know. I'm everything. Sometimes more an editor. Sometimes I'm scripting more, planning some shoots. But I think let's show you some visuals of what I've done in the last couple of 2 years. I was mainly focusing on short form content, so actually creating vertical videos for social media, visually appealing edits. And basically, my goal is to do whatever I want to do and just make it look cool. I just want to create cool visuals, be creative. And yeah, so I think I'm just going to show you some of my work. So here we are on my Instagram page. And I'm known for a bit of augmented reality 3D edits combined now with some car edits. So I really like to create stunning visuals and visualize how we could live in the future. I think 3D tracking really caught my attention right from the beginning. I love to add elements into real footage and combine that with different kind of elements, and also combine that with car edits and car footage in general. I like cars, and I think just that energy that you can create and those feelings combined with good music and sound design, those feelings that you can make your viewers feel with their videos, it just excites me to. I mean, I watched that video. I watched it edit probably, I don't know, more than 1,000 times over and over again to find those little details and add more and more flair to it. So I really enjoyed that process in general, to start with an idea and actually bring something to life, which is going to stay there for a while and which I can share with people and get feedback. So one more thing I do is I create talking head videos and kind of tutorials. Lately, there's a lot of AI stuff going on. So I was, actually playing around with some of those generations and how we could implement those into our workflows and just, test and see what those tools are capable of. So I also do a lot of talking head videos with also animations where I showcase my journey. I have a lot of 3D and 2D animations, which I just love to do. I also like to talk into the camera. Well, it wasn't always like that, but I kind of got into it. So I enjoy to now share my story and actually make that video as interesting as possible and just create animations for that. Here are some more car edits. Some of them, they do not include augmented reality. I usually use those as a hook to combine those two elements. But sometimes here I got invited to Brabus, which is a car brand in Germany, premium car brand. And I got an hour with their cars and just got creative in the edit. Here I have another one which I recently posted. Here I was building some futuristic UI elements. You actually just saw the Maxon logo, placed it in there. And here I also used a lot of red giant tools to actually bring in that cyberpunk vibe, because that footage was originally shot late evening and not at night, and there was no 3D UI elements floating around, like those here. You see here on the bottom and on the top, everything is added. So I love to use the red giant tools to really bring my ideas to life. And here you can actually see how it looked before and after. So that's just a boring table with a bunch of stupid stickers to track it. And here we transition into those car shots in Hong Kong. That was a pretty fun project. And I also like to share my timeline and the before and after, so people actually see how the shots look before and they can recreate it themselves. And speaking of tutorials, I also do tutorials, short form. I really try to get as much information as possible into 60 or 90 seconds. So people don't use social media for entertainment, but also learn valuable things. I think that's super important. And we need to create more content, educational content. I'm trying my best to put as much out there as possible. And I'm really happy that I'm also right now partnering a lot with Adobe. So they can also, sponsor my videos for tutorials. And we can actually share together all those crazy and cool features and how to create cool videos with everyone. So hopefully everyone learns something and can implement it into their own workflows. So and here's another talking head video where I showcase some footage. And I also do client projects here, for example, for OnePlus, where it's a little bit more about storytelling, but I always try to implement cool effects or try to make it as interesting as possible to watch, really seamless. Just in general, love to add to make that frame look cooler. And this augmented reality style just evolved over time. So I maybe overuse it sometimes, but I just love it. So that's for my work. I think that gives you a good overview. And I also started we created a platform to actually also teach their skills in long form tutorials, and that's the Creators Club. So that's where we built a platform for like-minded creator all around the world, which is the Creators Club here. And inside the Creators Club, we actually share a lot of knowledge. So that is basically how the Creators Club looks like. And there was a lot of work because we built everything our own. So I'm not just a creator for video, but we also love to create, let's say, a platform because it's just fun and just goes well with videos. And here inside the Creators Club, I'm teaching in long form tutorials how I do all my effects and transitions. We also have a community of more than 1,000 people inside, and it's so cool to see how everyone just gives feedback, and we learn, share, and grow together as a community. Yeah, and just this tutorial is 3 hours long, split down with all the knowledge. Actually started a blank After Effects project from scratch and just recreated everything so you can see everything, every single step. And yeah, so that's basically what I do right now. I create short form tutorials, short form edits, short form kind of hero videos. I do those augmented reality videos. I do a lot of car videos, and we have that community, that Creators Club. And yeah, that is just a quick walkthrough of what I'm doing every day now.
That's amazing, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we got a question.
We have a question. Yeah, sorry.
No, do it, Max.
No, in the chat, a Stegosaurus is asking Keanu, what is your rig?
My rig?
Yeah.
Like my camera rig?
Perhaps.
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most likely.
So, yeah, the videos you saw, it always depends on what I'm shooting. I just recently got the Sony FX3, and for those POV edits, I actually now bought a helmet, which I can actually just wear on my head, and I have that Sony DSLR in front of my face with that 10mm. So I'm using the FX3 mainly right now, but I started out with just that phone and mouthpiece. So literally just use the white lens and the iPhone. That's how I started with my POV videos. And at the beginning, I used the Sony A7 III, for my car videos and everything else.
Cool.
Did you say there was a 10mm on your helmet?
Yes.
Wow.
That one is epic.
Okay, so one of the things I didn't think of, if I would have known you were working with a 10mm, we have a lens distortion removal tool that makes tracking a lot easier and compositing a lot better.
But I got a 10mm with 0 distortion, actually.
Wow.
There is one from Laowa. It's 2.8 autofocus, 0 distortion, 10mm, and it's mind blowing. It's crazy. But for all those other lenses with lens distortion, when I was shooting on GoPro or when I'm using my phone, I think that getting rid of that lens distortion is super helpful.
Yeah. So sadly, I didn't prepare anything for that. So that's not one of the things.
Should have told you.
One of the millions of things I should have known. I tried also looking for a bunch of car stuff because I know you're into cars, and I couldn't find any like good 3D models for cars. So there's no car stuff, but there's like techie stuff that's like flashy that I thought like
I'm excited
for you. But okay, cool. Thank you so much for the introduction. Let's talk about what we're gonna do today. So this is going to be like a little different. So the theme, for this month is falling in love with Red Giant, right? Mm-hmm. But Red Giant's like 137 plugins or something like that. Like it's a lot of tools. And so even people that like, part of my job at Maxon is that I'm a trainer. So like our customers that, that use our stuff, I teach them, like how to use our stuff or whatever. And even people who are super, super, super experienced, like there's tons of tools they've never heard of, never used. And you have them, you're like licensing them, like so you should know how to use them and know what you have. So so this week and next week with Jen Van Horn, who's here with us in the chat. Hi, Jen. We're going to be kind of like introducing you to the world of Red Giant, because it's my understanding you're kind of new to the world of Red Giant, right, Keanu?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So there's just a lot of tools. So my goal is to try to create 16 things. And it's a little game show we're calling keaNEW Things with keaNEW Visuals.
That is so
you,
good,
Max.
man. You're so creative. Let's steal that.
It's so great. And so what we're going to try to do is I'm going to try to do 16 different tips. 16 different tips in the 45 minutes remaining. That is,
cool.
If my math is correct, which again, I'm in North America, so, you know, my math is not good. Also ADHD, so my math is not good. But I think that's a little less than 3 minutes per clip. So, and you could also ask questions. The audience could ask questions. If you want to make my life more difficult, you could ask a lot of questions. So that's the game show, is that I'm going to try to get through all 16 of these tips and try to teach you new things every time. After each tip, I'm going to ask you guys if it was new or if you knew it already, or if it's not helpful. If you're like, oh, I didn't know that, but I'll never use it, then that's a fail for me. So I'm trying to do 16 new things. You could also be honest. And Max also works at Maxon with me. So Max probably knows most of these, if not all of these, but I'm still going to ask if there's new things. Maybe there's something new. I don't know. Okay.
Chat's just being kind. This is actually my request to chat to learn publicly.
Aw, sweet guy. Okay, so here we go. Tip number 1, and Max has these cool cards to play. Tip number 1, organic particles in particular. Okay, so keaNEW was asking about like how do we make offline, not in this show so far, but asking how do we make like organic particle effects. And so I have this thing which I basically embellished a little bit, but this is just like one of the presets in the designer of this kind of like organic fire explosion, and just a very cool look.
It looks cool.
Very, very organic, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we don't have time to go particular from scratch, but one of the greatest tools in particular is the fact, and a lot of people who are new to particular miss this, is that the particle. So to me, there's 3 main components of a particle system. I'm inventing this. This is not like the way it is, but in my mind, there's 3 components. You have the emitter, like the thing that's spitting out the particles. And then you also have the particles themselves. And then you also have their behavior. And for some reason, you know, we spend a lot of time, you know, people who are new to particular, from my experience, spend a lot of time talking about like understanding the emitter and also understanding particle behavior, but they don't spend that much time exploring what is possible with the actual particles themselves. And that's where so much of the magic happens. So if I go into particular and I go into my particle and I change this from sprite to like sphere. So these are just like spheres, and then I'll take down the size so they're tiny. Like we can see that this is not like a complex setup or even like that exciting of a setup. These are at its core, these are just circles flying around. What makes this look great is that we are using a sprite, a custom particle. And in this case, the custom particle is like not some really amazing thing. I mean, no offense to like whoever made this particle system. It's a brilliant use of something very simple. I'm not trying to like say this is like bad or whatever. It's just like fractal noise. Like when you see this and you're like, oh yeah, it's just like regular fractal noise. It looks like
it looks
maybe
pretty
like
cool.
Yeah, it does look pretty cool. And it looks like they use the invert. So the black and white is inverted. So then it creates these kind of like tendrils, these electric things. And it's like seamlessly looping. And that's all it is. And then just creating like a mask around this to make it like a circle. And then you could use this video as a particle. Do you have a question, keaNEW?
I think people would love to see how to create even those the preview clip you just showed us.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is a rendered movie, so I mean, it's going to take some extra time, but I think that's part of the game. Let's look at how to create.
Okay, let's do it quickly. Fractal noise. Okay.
I don't know who made this or what the settings are, but like
sure.
Like this, I was going to take this to like maybe like dynamic progressive. Sorry, everybody got what I was doing here? I applied fractal noise to a solid layer.
Yes.
And then I took the fractal type to something else like no, not turbulent basic. I was doing dynamic progressive, and then I increased the contrast a little bit. But to get these kind of like that tendril look, the look of like fibers or like electric things, then oftentimes like what we can do with fractal noise is invert this. So like when you're looking at like this, like dynamic progressive has this kind of, they look like intestines almost.
Yes.
Like digital intestines.
Okay, and you just keyframe the evolution to get that kind of animation.
Yes, and better yet, this is gonna kill me. I'm taking like 20 minutes on this one clip, but better than animating it, it's much better to create an expression. And for some people, expressions are very scary, but this one is very easy. All I have to do is just like Alt click, Option click, the stopwatch for evolution, and we're just gonna say time. Now, if I just leave that as it is and just say time, it's going to return a value based on the seconds in the timeline. So at 0, the value will be 0. At 1 second, the value will be 1. At 2 seconds, the value will be 2, and so on. So that's all the time is. You just have to type time. You don't have to know math. You could have my education.
I can type time. Yeah.
And then, but you can type time. Sure.
Yeah.
In multiple languages even. But if you look at this, it's really like nothing much is happening because it's going so slow, because over the course of like our 3-second composition, it's only moving like 3 degrees. So then what I can do is say time like asterisk, which is like times, like multiplied by, and let's say like 40. So time times 40. So that at 1 or at 0 at the beginning, it'll be 0. But then when we get to 1, it'll be 40. And over 2, it'll be 80. So it's going like much faster now.
Yeah.
So time times 40. And so you see it's evolving. It's still a little bit slow. But if this were keyframes, I would have to navigate to make sure that I'm on the right frame with the keyframe. You know, and that can create issues if you're not on the exact right frame. And then you have to, if you go back to a project, you have to remember like what the keyframe values are. It's just kind of a mess. So maybe I could say like 60 here, and then now I'm doing time times 60. And so we have like a faster evolution, and it's just like easier to update. It's just easier to update. You know, we don't have to like set with keyframes and stuff like that. Just any values like this that like go around in a circle, like that are kind of like angles like that, time works really well. So then what we could do is invert this. And this one, the actual sprite was very, very fast. So it'd probably be like times 120 or something like that. It was very, very fast. But this is how we would basically do that. And then I would probably want to create a new composition. Yeah, exactly. New composition. I'll double click this to go faster.
Yeah, makes sense. You feather it and there you go.
Exactly. So feather it, and we'd want a new composition. Typically with sprites, you want it to be like 500 by 500. You could make them, the manual suggests 250 by 250, but you can get away now with like 500 by 500, but don't make it any bigger than that. And then I could hit F for the feather this if I want to. And there we want this to go to the edge, but like, this is kind of off the cuff, not planning anything. That's kind of how I would create something.
Perfect. That helps a lot.
Cool. Good. And then you can see with all of that, then we have, it's basically just coloring it, and then it's fading in and out, and it creates this very organic look, even though like this like fractal noise thing is not the most, stunning thing anyone's ever seen, but because it's an unconventional thing, when we use it as a particle, it works great. That works fantastic. So,
but how does it fade in? Sorry. How do we make this smooth fade in?
Okay, good question. So in the particle section, there is an opacity over life. And this is like a graph that determines.
So you just applied the particle effect to your file, to the one you rendered, to the one we just created.
So you choose Sprite in the particle type. So in the particle, we customize the particle. And then the particle type, we choose Sprite as opposed to one of these like basic things. So these are the basic shapes that come with particular. Sprite means you're going to use a custom particle. You can click on choose Sprite, and there are tons of custom sprites to choose from, like pixel art, which I made,
Cool.
and Atomic
Nice.
Age, which I made, and emojis, which I made. So I'm pretty proud of these stupid little things. This little happy fella here. So yeah, you could choose one of these things, and these can be then your particles. They are your sprites, or in your, if you're going to use something from your timeline, open up sprite controls and then choose the layer from this drop down here from the sprite controls, and then opacity over life. You can, draw a curve that makes it, so that in this case, the opacity is 100% in the beginning, and then it's 0%. We could also kind of like sculpt this if we want it to like fade in as well. So
and it's just the effect or the layer opacity itself?
So this is opacity inside the particle. So for each system you have of particular, then you're going to have each particle is going to have its own, each system is going to have its own opacity for the particles as they're born. So this refers to like each particle's life. So when it's born, it's like not transparent, fades in very quickly, and then fades out over the course of its life. That's what this represents.
Cool.
Okay, so that was tip one. A third of the session, a third of my time went to that tip. So I'm hoping Max Keanu was like anything new in there for you, helpful. Okay, good.
Everything. Revelations.
That was amazing.
Okay, good. Well, maybe we should just end it there and just have.
All right, it's a wrap, guys.
The ding means that it was successful. The ding means that it was a successful tip.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Okay. So let's move on to a similar tip, tip 2. The tip 2 is that we're going to take, thank you, Max, particular helpers. So we have this kind of like, this thing that we just did. But then there's also some other things that we could do to it with other effects. So, and sometimes those are Maxon effects. Sometimes those are not Maxon effects. So in this case, I have, I duplicated this and I created CC vector blur. And with CC vector blur, it can kind of pinch things like this. Kind of, like it can kind of create this like, see, like the more I do this, like it kind of like pitches it even more and kind of gets a little bit crazy. But that value is something that I liked. So I made a duplicate and I took the opacity down to about 40% of the original. And then I put this top one in the add blend mode. So that way these little like crackles kind of like really pop. And already we have something like very different just from the CC vector blur. CC glass is another one that can just like distort things in weird ways. So if you're looking for like organic effects, I don't think it looked very good with this particular instance, but CC glass is another one that can do kind of interesting organic things to your particles. And then also there is a universe effect called Electrify, and it automatically makes kind of like electric currents auto animate around the edges of things. Like good for like little crackles and sparkles. So that's what I did there. And so then you're seeing like Electrify in that case. And I find with Electrify, any one frame of it doesn't look amazing, but then when you preview it, if you dial back the settings a little bit, then you get these little kind of like sparks that look actually pretty good because they don't stay on very long. So it just kind of like is like a little like that. You know what I'm saying? Looks like a little anime ball or something like that. Just
I like Electrify. That's cool. You just have to tweak it a little bit. So it does look over animated, like you do an anime kind of effect.
Yes, it looks much more stylized than organic. I just wanted to show that like, these are some options to kind of take what you've done and then like play with it. So as you're working in particular, if you're trying to get this kind of like, anime type style or, even just like these kind of like electric tendrils without Electrify, if you're trying to go for that look, it doesn't have to necessarily all have to come from particular itself. You can use other tools with particular. Turbulent Displace is another one. You have to spell it right though. Turbulent Displace, So like I'll take down the size of the displacement and then crank up the amount of displacement. And so we could do some interesting things with Turbulent Displace with these particles as well, where it kind of becomes more of an energy field rather than actual like separate particles or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
anyways, using tools. Anything new there? Was that a winner?
Chat. I mean,
Yes.
most probably
Okay.
like a lot of people like me. We normally like. I mean, if I can speak for everybody, I mean, a lot of like user normally like uses like this effects like Electrify on the footage, and then after that things like, okay, that's it. So Electrify is just like, okay, just one particular effects that do this. But what you're showing me here is like, wow, you can use Electrify on particles. You can create your own sprites and then apply Electrify and make it like
Mhm.
super awesome. So that's a total winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so good to see how you can actually stylize them and make them react to certain motions you do in your video. So maybe if I want to like attach that to my hand, and it should react in some kind of way when I move it. So I think that is a great way. Or if I click on it or whatever, if I anyhow want to react it to my acting, I think those are great ways to do that.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. That does create this kind of like something happened to it. Like there's movement and life to it when you, especially with Electrify, it just kind of creates a little like crackle that's good for just like a few frames or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Next tip.
Winner.
Thanks, guys. Okay. Next tip is form holograms, quick 3D hologram. So one of the things that I noticed is that you have like a very cool like hologram style keaNEW. Like you have like a lot of
Thank
like
you.
hologrammy type stuff and that sleek kind of things like that. And there
Yeah.
are a few like really cool tools, and Holo Matrix is a universe effect that we have that is a great thing to put on stuff to make it feel like a hologram, to make it feel like it's being
Mhm.
broadcast. And I
Mhm.
don't know why I didn't think of making an entire tip out of just like that. But going back to particles, one of the things that we can do is with form, trapcode form, or in this case, I'm actually going to be using particular because trapcode form is now inside of trapcode particular. So we could actually use those behaviors. But as we talked about last week, you know, particular shoots out particles, then they die. But form, the particles just like stay there, which makes them really great for holograms. So I have this, you know, particular, and it's just like the default settings of particular, you know, it's just like spitting out particles as we're used to seeing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Apply Form Defaults, which is a new button that came out last week. So update your software if you don't have this. But I click this, and now it basically turns into form, and it cleans up everything, which is like pretty cool. It cleans up the UI. So there's stuff that with emitting particles, like the stuff that only applies to emitting particles, that stuff is removed for my convenience, which is nice. But I'm going to change the emitter type from a box, which like if you look at this, this is just like 3 sheets of like flat particles, like, you know, that's all this is.
Mhm.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from a box to a 3D model. And then I am going to, in the model emitter, choose the model, which is number 21, the bad guy head. And now what's going to happen is that these form particles are going to be arranged in the shape of that 3D model. So
where do you get that model? Is that like a preset inside the Maxon Studio?
No, I got it from some website, some other.
Okay, what
It's like
file do you need? Like
so you
type?
need to get like just like a 3D head. We have some in the Cinema 4D asset browser, so we can go into.
But if you get it from some other site, can you use a GLB or what kind of file format do you need?
Oh, good question. So OBJ and C4D.
OBG.
Yeah, OBJ and C4D work with particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I can also take this down and make this like less dense if I want to, because and then you could actually see that this is
nice.
made out of particles. And what's pretty cool is that instead of edges, I could actually use the vertices of the model and see if that gives me better results. Or I can do the faces, or in this case, I'm going to use the volume, and I'm going to fill the volume with these particles, which is pretty cool. And then I could come over here and make the particle color something better than that thing. And then also what really makes this trick sexy is if I take the blend mode to add. So then every time the particles overlap, they go into the add blend mode on each other. And then maybe I'll take the particle density up to like 50% maybe. It's going to give us a lot of particles, but eventually we are going to have this like very cool head made entirely out of particles. And then because this is form, I could very quickly like randomize the size of the particles. So then I create some like really interesting looks where I have like that kind of thing. Or I could randomize the opacity so that like, you know, it just creates, again, this like randomness there. And the real magic is if I go into displace and turbulence field, then I can use this invisible fractal field that is animating, auto-animating. I could use that to adjust the opacity instead of this, which is like a permanent thing. Like this is like what they are permanently. But then if I change the opacity through here, then the turbulence field animates it. I could even displace the particles based on this fractal field. So I could have it like warble and do different things based on this fractal field. I'll take this up like a little bit higher just so you could see what's going on. And if I were to preview this, I mean, it's a pretty dense model. And I overdid it. So it looks a little Neanderthal. But now like the model is moving. I could have the opacity and the size of the particles kind of like, you know, undulating. So if you're looking for a hologram that has more like life to it, more detail, and this is also like a fully 3D object. So I could rotate around it. I could rotate a camera around it. So this is kind of like a cool.
So can you place it in 3D space? So let's say we have some real footage tracked with the 3D tracker, because it's not a 3D layer, right?
It's not a 3D layer, but it works. It's like a 3D contained space. So if I have a camera, and actually what I can do is, I'm just going to solo this because I got a lot of other layers. This is all made with form, by the way. Each one of these things, each one of these UI elements is animated and made with track code form. But if I make a camera, and then pan around this, like you could see that like it moves in 3D space. It like responds to the camera. Yeah, all those details.
I think that's super cool.
It's actually made out of particles too, so pretty cool.
Because you can actually like scan your own stuff. Let's say I want to scan like a bottle or some items and actually like bring them into After Effects, that model that I scanned, and actually bring it to life in that futuristic style, hologram style. Within seconds.
A good idea.
Yeah,
that's epic. Or you can like make real things disappear.
Example.
You can track it and.
Yeah, and then you have all the power of particles. You could make them kind of like assemble. You could make them kind of like move and dissipate. And kind of like we talked about last week, there's a lot of opportunity to mess with them once they're made out of particles. Wow. So, all right. So this is a new thing. Does that count as a win?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Whew. All right, we're batting 1,000. I don't expect to win all of these, by the way. Let's move to tip number 4, which is using Mir for quick 3D wireframes. Have you played with Mir very much, Keanu?
No, not yet.
I don't blame you. A lot of people haven't. Yeah, a lot of people haven't played with Mir. Even a lot of people who are like super experts at things haven't played with Mir. And a couple of years ago, Maxon asked me to create a course for Cineversity about Mir, like a start from scratch. And they were like, oh, just make it like a 15-minute video. And I ended up making like an hour's worth of content. And they were like, all right, calm down on the Mir, dude. But I just got really into it. I got obsessed with like all the different things you could make with it. So when you first apply it, it's like, it's very confusing of what this is. It doesn't animate. It doesn't move. It's just kind of like this crinkly mesh. And the default
just apply
settings,
to a solid, right?
Just to apply to a solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is just like what it looks like when you apply Mir. And what this is like a thin, semi-transparent sheet of geometry that renders very, very, very fast. But what this is, if I go in closer into the geometry, basically I can choose a plane, which is what this is, or a 3D model. So if I want to bring a 3D model and like relight it, I can do it that way. And I can increase the geometry which will make this look better, but still kind of have this like gross look that we're not looking for. If I go down to the shader, we'll see that it's density. And the shader is at the density, which creates this kind of like satiny, semi-transparent thing, which is pretty cool and has its uses. But I'm actually going to do smooth instead. And that creates a piece of geometry. And if I then turn on a point light, you can see that this is, you know, creating geometry that we can relight and all that business. So you can kind of see. And then also I need to go back to mirror and change the blend, which is set to add, take that to normal or off. And so now this is an actual like regular piece of geometry. I'm going to take that light back. I didn't realize that I'd animated that, but so I have this piece of geometry, and what I can do with this is take the shader, or excuse me, the draw from fill to wireframe. And I could also take a second pass to wireframe, which allows me to create a 3D model and then a wireframe on top of the filled stuff. So then if I go into Fractal and I adjust like evolution, then like I'm animating, you know, this, you see how fast it renders. It renders really, really fast, even though we got like a lot
you're
of
in full resolution right now.
Yeah. And so you can imagine if we choose one of the models that, and you were looking for like a head earlier, there's actually, if you click on choose model, there's a huge collection of models, including like a bust of a female, male, bodies, musical things, sports things, phones, shapes, all these different kinds of things. These are 3D objects that come with all the, you know, mirror and form and particular. And so you can arrange things in this way and then make them out of wireframes very easily. So then there's like another example that I had here where I made this like tunnel, because you can wrap the form around and then make a very quick 3-dimensional wireframe. And again, this is all 3D. So if I had a camera in the scene, I can, you know, orbit around and
nice. That's cool.
Move it around in 3D space. So okay, so that's that one. How does that, is that new? Is that new? Max, is that new for you?
That is absolutely new for me, man.
Okay. You guys are being like too nice.
No, that's really cool. I think there's really a lot to cover. So I totally understand that you taking this time and to create all those hours of tutorials for that, just that feature.
Yeah, and just so you know,
That's
like the
exciting.
next tip deals with mirror as well, but just so you know, like I also use mirror to create this like flowing chocolate. I also use mirror to create this like, I don't know, this like abstract, like
that looks so realistic.
Yeah, it's like just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous textures.
That is so satisfying to watch.
It's like lit, and it's all 3D. This is all like 3D geometry. Those little those highlight things are created by actual lights in After Effects. So like, as I take these off, you can see what the lights are actually doing. So it's actual 3D geometry and not like
so now you're going to explain everything in detail, how to create those?
Well, I did in the Cineversity course. So
that is so cool.
Okay, so then let's get to the next tip, which actually deals more with another feature of mirror that I think is really sick. And that is creating quick 3D landscapes. Okay, so I have here mirror, and I think for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of like speed this up a little bit. So here we have like the default settings of mirror, right? And then I've also gone ahead and created with fractal noise. If you use fractal noise and you change the noise type to block, you can create just like a series of blocks. And what I can do in mirror is actually change the fractal map that is displacing the geometry here. So it looks just like regular fractal noise distortion. And if we like evolve this like I was showing before, this is kind of like any fractal pattern that we see in fractal noise or anywhere else where we evolve it and it kind of like does its like evolving thing, right? But I could also take the amplitude layer and choose fractal map. We'll choose effects and masks, and then I'll take the frequency down to like 1, and the amplitude I can boost up here. And with the individual amplitude, I want to take this down to maybe like 1, 1, and then just want the amplitude in Z. And if I turn the light here, I think you might be able to start to see, maybe I have to crank up the amplitude more, but because it's using that fractal noise as a map, it's starting to distort in 3D space based on that map. So it's looking really bad here because I need more vertices. And so I'm going to crank up the number of vertices, actually a lot, maybe like 2000 by 2000. Oops. There we go. So now we have more detail, and I can rotate this along the x-axis, and you can see that this is now actually 3D. We've basically taken our fractal map that we had earlier and used this as like almost like a displacement map to displace 3D geometry very quickly. And I could go in here with like a light and, you know, relight this and change how this lights. I could change the material that this is being made with. So even if you're just looking for something quick and simple, this is the way to do it. So I took a little bit more time on this final result, and you can kind of see that, like, you know, that this is like actual like 3D stuff. And again, I could fly in a camera here, and you know, it's like 3-dimensional, and it responds to lights and cameras and all that kind of stuff as well. So very quick way to create 3D geometry with knowing what you know about creating, you know, just regular maps and images.
All right, you should pack that. You should pack that. Send it to the Maxon Studio team, and you know, you got a new Maxon Studio background.
There you go.
Wow, that looks so good.
Yeah, thank you. Yay!
Yes.
Here's another example of this same trick. I went into Houdini, and I I made like this black and white map. So you can make this in Photoshop or anything like that. It's just like, you know, it's not that crazy. But then when you bring it into Mirror, you have this like full 3D. I mean, this is like a lot of geometry. This is like a really, really big map. So this is going to take forever to update, probably. Well, I guess not that long to update. But this is at a fully 3D surface of the moon created in Mirror that, again, I can relight. I think I have lights here. I could like turn them on and off. So yeah, so I can relight this. I can, you know, move a camera along the surface of it. Fully 3D stuff, like with all the flexibility, just like from right here in After Effects, which is pretty cool.
That's super cool.
Thanks, guys. Okay, next tip. Tip number 6, and we have 13 minutes
number
left.
6.
Tip number 6, which is HUD Components. HUD Components, there's a universe tool called HUD Components, used for making kind of like sick UI things. Oh, also, are there comments and questions from the chat, Max? I keep forgetting to check and ask because...
Exactly. There's a questions from Mariah. Yeah. When you apply the effects to the layer, it is applied to a solid, right? What happens when you apply it to an image or something else? Does it matter what the layer is?
Ooh, that's a very good question, Maria. That's a very good question. And the answer is the worst answer that you can ever give as a trainer. I hate this so much, and it depends. With most effects, if you apply like mirror or particular to a layer, it's most of the time going to replace what's there. So using a solid is great so that you can not have it like go over your footage, because you kind of want that control to be able to like move it and color it independently. So yeah, so the tools that we've shown so far will go on top of the layer, but you could also, there's ways to blend it into the footage if you want to do that, like on the same layer. But I really recommend making those separate layers because they do tend to kind of overwrite whatever is there. Very good question. Okay, so HUD components, you know, a lot of the stuff that you do, Keanu, seems like you have like it's very like techie. You have a lot of like interface stuff, especially with like the augmented reality. You have a lot of interface stuff. And, you know, a lot of times when you're creating these like fake user interfaces, you want like a lot of detail, right? You want like a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on in the background.
It's all
but
about the details. I
It
spend
also,
hours on that. Yeah, it's all about
right.
details, but no one's going to see it. Probably no one's going to see the exact detail, but overall, it just looks right and good if you
Yes.
add all those details.
Yes, exactly. But because not all of those details are super important, we have
Exactly. Yeah, right.
a tool to make it so that like you can add a bunch of details very quickly and customize all those details, but then you could focus on like the hero details and put more effort and energy into that. And
Yeah.
like that's called HUD Components. And what I'm going to do actually is go to the window menu. If anybody who's new to Red Giant, or especially like new to Universe, go to Window, Extensions, and this works, by the way, in After Effects and in Premiere. There is a Red Giant Universe dashboard in both tools in the Window Extensions menu. So Red Giant Universe dashboard, you open that up, and this is a great way to browse the Red Giant tools that are available to you in Universe. And give that just a minute to load up. And the Universe effects are in, it's like over 100 effects, 105 different effects, last count. And each one of these categories. So blur, distort, generators, whatever. So we can click on the left-hand side and see the different effects in Universe. As you can see, there are a ton of them. Stylized probably being the most popular because we have like VHS here, which I used on the Falling in Love with Red Giant promo video. But there's also a ton of like really great effects. Glitch, Hollow Matrix is the one I was referring to earlier. Keanu with that's really cool for creating holograms or taking footage and making it look like it's a hologram. And I can, from right here, I can click apply to apply it if I have a layer selected. But if I click in the thumbnail itself, so not apply, in the thumbnail, then I get to go to all of the presets for that effect. And with the Universe effect, every single one of them has a ton of really, really great presets. And if they're animated, then you could mouse over and see the animation there, and you could actually apply this specific preset instead of just applying the effect. So these are all the presets for Hollow Matrix. If you wanted to make it look like an old TV or an LCD thing, or security camera footage, or night vision footage, or like, or just like you know, a movie cinematic you know, hologram that has like different like noise interference patterns or whatever. And this is all just for Hollow Matrix. So I can go back to effects. I want to go to motion graphics, HUD components, click on the thumbnail here, and you can see like these are the different components that come with HUD components. These are all these different elements, these UI elements that come with this. And what's really great about this is that it's all like dynamic. So for example, for these like arcs, I'll go ahead and apply the offset arcs preset. And it's not like a regular template where, you know, it's like rendered footage. This is like a live thing. So I could go into one of these elements and fiddle with the elements. If I want to take down the opacity of these arcs, I can do that. If I want to change the color of these arcs, I can do that very quickly. If I want to change the animation of the arcs, there's these built-in like animations of blinking and pulsing and oscillating and wiggling, orbiting around in 3D space. Like all these are set up where it's just like auto animating. I choose the behavior that I want for each of these elements, and then I can change the speed and make the animation loop. So it's constantly looping if I want to. I have like these like arc options. If I want like more, you know, arc option, I can change, see how that's like kind of like changing like that. So these are like live arcs that I have total control over. So for creating like user interface elements, you could build all this stuff from scratch. You can use a preset. You can start from presets. But for creating kind of like these kind of fictional interface elements, like there's just no better tool than HUD Components. It's just so flexible and just very, very easy to use. Anyways, so any questions? What do you think?
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it makes it so easy. to create those elements.
Yeah, I think so. Right. I don't. I could play with it and tell me what you think. But I think it's.
Yeah, it would be interesting on how far you can take it to customize it.
Yeah. So basically, each one of these elements. So you can have 4 elements, and each one of these elements can be a different element type. So I can have this be when I have it set to arc, I have total customization over like the number of arcs and like how thick they are, and then you can clone them.
Yeah.
And then I have control over like the number of clones. So if I only want like 3 arcs, I can do that. If I want like 50 arcs, I can do that.
Oh, okay.
So I have
you can also keyframe them, right?
Absolutely. Every single one of these properties can be keyframed. And you could also, there's an entire randomness section. So you could randomize every attribute about their like movement, scale, rotation, opacity, like all that kind of stuff can be randomized across the arcs, which is very, very cool. But then there's also other elements too. If I wanted this to be like a pointer instead, or if I wanted it to be, these crosshairs, or if I wanted it to be, and it's kind of looking weird because I have a bunch of clones right now. But I can go down to these clones and say, actually don't have 3 clones, just have like 1 clone. And so I just have like that, or maybe just 0 clones. And then I just have this like element in the center. Yeah. So all of these different components, I can, let's see, transforms. I could increase the size here, make this like bigger. But yeah, all these different, like you have 4 different elements, you combine them, change them, animate them, color them in all these different ways. So
nice.
It's meant to be kind of like a very, very flexible grab and go tool. So it's,
and it feels like there's already kind of a glow applied, or would you?
Yes.
Or is there no glow at all?
There is a glow that's built in, and the composite settings at the bottom. There actually is a glow that's like built in.
Nice.
And so I can take this. What I would probably do is take the glow intensity to 0 and then use optical glow, because I think that's
optical glow is great. Yeah,
optical glow is so good.
Yeah, there you go.
It just tends to look a lot more realistic.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah, but there is a glow built in if you want to adjust that, or just kind of
tip.
If it doesn't mean that much, if it's like in the background or whatever, you could just use the built-in glow and go with it. But anyway, so HUD Components is new.
HUD Component is new, right?
Yeah.
For keaNEW.
Yeah.
Like I play a little bit around with it. I mean, I would love to give you a ding to this one, chat, but looking at the hours, I think we are.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I tried my best to not to ask too many questions.
No, it's great.
But there's so much like that, so much to cover. That's insane.
Yeah. Okay. So the next ones, in 2 minutes, I'll just run through what they are and not go. So in just a 2-minute introduction to the other 8 effects, 9 effects.
That's cool.
Okay. So there's Progresso, which is made for creating progress bars. So if you have like a pie chart, or if you want to, so like something is like filling up or whatever, that is the best way to do it. When you just apply Progresso, I'm already going too long here. The default setting is like just like this really boring, bar like this that doesn't look very good. But all this can be customized. And so there's some things made with Progresso. There's like this like speedometer here. There's this like power up thing, solar thing. Nice. There's like a battery thing. This is a battery example. Wow. It's like all made with Progresso, and these things were just like taking. This is my favorite example right here.
Crazy.
Spinal tap going to 11, and then volume knobs. So if you're looking to create like things like that are like automatically customized, you don't have to use any expressions, like none of that stuff. Like that is a great win as well. Screen text. Oh, I love screen text so much. So screen text is a way that you can, if you're trying to look for like, a lot of time you're doing techie stuff, you want like a bunch of like code, like you want this, like it's like programming code, but like modern audiences are really sophisticated and smart. We know when it just looks like gobbledygook on the screen. And so screen text is actual code that can scroll automatically that's, you know, like actual like JavaScript code. And autosave. I don't have time for autosave. Okay, that's not like loan. Okay, motion graphics or no text, screen text. So we have like all these different, you know, crypto miner, hex dump, all these different Linux boot up, and then it scrolls like automatically, which is like really cool. And I could change the like timing of that. So I have this like 3D scene, and I had this like text in the background here. It's kind of like going. That's like really fun. So there's that. Ecto is another thing, and I thought, you know, it'd be fun to start from scratch. So this is just like very like easy. But so this is the radio waves effect, a very old After Effects effect, and it basically just like shoots out concentric circles, and it's kind of just, I don't know, simple. But the Ecto effect in Universe is this. Yeah, it's very helpful. This Ecto effect is an effect in Universe that creates this kind of like fire look to it and distortion. So I just want to show that even with the simple like circles like that, we have this like effect that like looks like it's just kind of like fiery and glowing. You could apply this to like text. There's a million different like presets or whatever. You can see that it's kind of like distorting the lines. And this is just like with the default settings. So Ecto is really cool.
Wow.
Another one, if you're doing kind of like explainer videos, which is like the greatest thing ever, is Line. It doesn't seem like it. This is one of my favorite effects in the world, because if you've ever tried to create a line with like an arrowhead or something like that, it's impossible to do. It's impossible. It shouldn't be that hard. And then with this, you can just kind of like adjust the draw on value and just have it go. And then you could also change the line. Yes. I could take this to a 4-point Bezier. So if I'm creating like the Indiana Jones thing where like they're like traveling the world, they went here, then they went there.
Yeah,
like
sure. There's a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey. Yeah, exactly. And like here's they're going. I could change, you know, I don't have to have this like circle at the beginning, or I can have a shape at the beginning. So if I want to show that there's a destination, a start point, whatever. Anything for creating a line. I can make it a dashed line if I want. And so then I made this like example, like where these it's like a skull and these like arrows kind of like grow out, just kind of show like what you can do with it. But these are, it's just like all line, you know, like line coming out. And I spent so much time on that, and then it was a waste.
It looks like.
But then we have chromatic stuff. I use radio waves again. And then you mentioned you knew chromatic displacement.
I've started a couple of times. I think it's great.
So I use radio waves, that effect earlier with the white, you know, circles. I use that coming out. I just use that with chromatic displacement, and to displace this, so it looks like she's kind of like shooting out like energy waves. And then I use chromatic aberration. It's a different effect as an adjustment layer on the edges to make it feel like it's kind of like warping, to kind of increase that sense that she's kind of like shooting out energy stuff. This is
nice tingling.
Say what?
Like the spider sense is tingling.
The spider sense is tingling. Yes. And I'm aware that I'm going a couple minutes over here, but forgive me. I'm going to be fast here.
I love it.
So I have this golden nuggets, Chad. Don't worry.
That's why we're here.
Thanks, man. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate that. I'm almost done. I'm going quick now. So I have this like little HUD components thing that I made, and I've tracked it into the background, which again, I spent a lot of time that I didn't need to on this, but it doesn't really blend in because we have a really shallow depth of field. Looks like we have like an anamorphic lens. And another effect that's like fantastic for this is the bokeh effect in Universe. So if I apply bokeh to this, you know, a regular blur is just going to make it kind of like fizzle out, you know, like if you have something and it just kind of like, like peters out. It doesn't look like, especially if you're used to a camera person, the way that when you have a shallow depth of field, highlights bloom, they don't fizzle out. And so bokeh is like that, where it makes the, you know, if I take this up to a ridiculously high number like 500, it's going to make them bloom and blossom just like regular bokeh, and it renders like super fast. And the bokeh ratio refers to the actual ratio. So if I'm shooting anamorphic, I could take this ratio down to like 30 or something like that, which is going to make this like more tall. And so now this composites into my footage like really well, and it renders like really fast as well. So
can you copy that effect onto the footage? What happens then? To pick up the question from earlier.
On the footage. Okay, so if I apply bokeh to this, there we go.
Okay.
It's bokeh-ish, and then I could also take this down to like 30, and then I also might want to boost the highlights, so I can then go to the highlight boost and bump that up, so then the highlights are look a little bit brighter.
That's so cool, because I always use that camera lens blur, and yeah, it just doesn't feel 100% right. So having that, that's amazing, and like being able to actually customize it, because I'm shooting like really high on a high f-stop and high shutter, because I want everything sharp for the 3D tracking. So I need to blur things afterwards, because I'm separating elements anyway. So yeah, that's amazing.
It's a gorgeous effect. It renders like really quickly.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm looking at the other things here. We got Kingpin Tracker. I don't know if you ever used that, but if you're trying to track like a surface, Kingpin Tracker is the best. You actually apply it to the layer that you want tracked. So not to my footage, but to the thing that you want tracked, because you can tell Kingpin Tracker, I want this part of the footage to be here. So again, we don't have time for a tracking demonstration, but I tracked this text and on the beach, and you could see that like there it is on the sand. So great for tracking surfaces. You can see that even with the 3D-ness of this camera move, it's just like locked in. So that's a pretty cool thing.
How long did it take you?
It was not long at all. Yeah. It
wow,
like,
that's cool.
Because there isn't like anything, there was sand. So either it's going to work or not. So I just kind of like put it anywhere, and it just happened to work. So I was like, okay, let's just go with that. But yeah, and it's a very fast tracker as well. Real lens flares. Okay. We don't have time to go through this, but, you might have played with real lens flares. One of the cool things I was going to show you is in this obscuration thing, you can choose a layer to obscure it. So just like in real life, when you're shooting on set, if you have something obscuring the flare, it can block it. But the lens flare is happening in the lens. So you have stuff going in front and behind. And so that's what obscuration does. It allows you to kind of like, you know, if I move this a little bit, you can see that it starts coming out. I mean, this is the flare by like, you know, it gets like really big. But if you've never played with real lens flares, it's very different, because it's an actual simulation. It's not using lens elements. It's actually simulating like what goes on in a lens. So you have all the different pieces of glass that are in a lens that you can tweak, and you can change the reflective coating on each piece of the lens. You could change things about the sensor. You could change things about the sun. There's like presets. You could put dust on the lens. There's just nothing. There's nothing like it. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That would be another one what I would be really interested in, and also how to like track them to certain things. Let's say we have a car and we shot a car and we want to add that lens flare to that. So I think that would be also really interesting to know.
Well, we now also can use an After Effects light. So like if you have anything that, like a null, and you have a light parented to a null, you could actually just use the light in the scene as the lens flare.
And what's nice, Keanu, since you are shooting with a real lens, so you can actually match the lens that you're using, match the profile of the lens that you're using, using the real lens flare.
And I have a lot of homework to do after that one.
Okay, I'm gonna skip this trick. It was an optical glow trick. Basically, I just have this like geometry that I made in DAO, and it's super simple.
So
I just took this like NASA map, and then I wrapped it. And I wrapped it around geometry in DAO. So without the texture, it looks like this. It's just like white, you know, gobbledygook.
Wow, it looks so good.
Thank you.
Like that structure, I didn't know you could do that with like inside After Effects. I always thought you have to do like learn advanced 3D software.
Yeah, right. And that's like the power of learning the giant tools is you don't have to go into the big 3D world to do like simple things. And And what I did on this mesh is I also animated the star texture to move. And then I used Optical Glow's powers to have like just highlights only. So then I just have just the stars, and then I animated it so that the highlights only changes. So then other things kind of like come in. It takes a while to render because it's got a lot going on with like the glow. So I won't have time to show you, but it looks so cool when it's it's just very, very sleek with the stars, with the power of Optical Glow. And again, it's like fully 3D, but yeah, it's gorgeous. Okay, final tip. Spot clone tracker. What?
Yeah.
Final tip. Thanks everybody for being super patient here. We always go over anyways, but whatever. So the best tool, my favorite one, ending with the winner here, Spot Clone Tracker. We don't talk about this very much. I don't know. I think it's just the greatest tool. If you've ever tried, like, you shoot a lot of live action footage. There's probably times when you want to get rid of something, a person, something in a shot, and it's so irritating in After Effects. You have to track the thing. You have to track the thing you want to replace, and then you have to like blend them together in a way, and it's just expressions. It's not flexible. Spot Clone Tracker fixes all of that and makes my life so much easier. And it's very simple. You could see there's a blue area that it's going to clone from, and then there's an orange area it's going to clone to. So like, let's say I want to remove this blemish. I can reshape it to fit that thing. And then maybe I want this blue area to be somewhere else here. I want the data to come from somewhere else. I can just kind of keep moving around until I find a thing. And you can see that we have a pretty good blend with that. And then the tracker is so fast. I click plus, and it's just tracking the footage, and it's tracking the glitch, and it's also tracking the relationship between the two. I'll go ahead and stop that. So then this is like the cooking show, the final result with it being done. Just instantly. I don't have to do expressions. I don't have to.
That's super easy tracker removal right there.
Yeah, very, very easy. Yeah, tracking tracker removal. Yeah, exactly. So it's very clean, and the intelligence. It's the After Effects clone is like a dummy clone. It's not like the Photoshop clone. It just like takes pixels and just puts them over somewhere. But here I'm sampling data from over here where the lighting information is different. It doesn't matter. It's taking the texture and blending it into the color data that was already there. It's very intelligent, very fast. And it's
it looks stunning.
Very cool.
And chat, do you know what?
Yes, sir. What's up?
The folks in the chat are going crazy, man, and they're loving it. I mean,
for a reason.
Although it's like a game show, it turned out to be like a speed dating round, but
yes. My apologies. My time management was not the best.
No, but people are loving it. And Joey, I hear you, Joey. Joey was asking if we can provide like a the file as a downloadable. And also Vaughn is also asking if we can also have the file for downloadable as well.
Yes. Also, what's up, Joey? Joey and I are Facebook friends. And so it's good to see you virtually. So sometimes, like in this case, I'm using stock footage, and I can't I can't share the stock footage. But what I'll do is clean this up, remove the stock elements that I can't share, and then include the stuff that I can. Awesome. So yeah, absolutely. We'll have that in the downloads included with the show. Maybe like starting like tomorrow, because like I still got to pack it up and stuff like that. But yes, it will be available to download. Thank you for bringing that up.
Nice.
That's the final thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for being engaged. And Keanu, thank you so much for joining us. Max, thank you for being here for your comments and your questions. It made it so much better.
Well done. I can feel how passionate you're about it. Like I can feel passion until Germany. So I think there's so much to do now. Like it's you actually we could actually do a live stream on each of those topics, like just a live stream for itself to really go in there, because I think the results you just showed us are just amazing. Like the quality Yeah, I think I haven't seen it somewhere else. Really well
Cool.
done.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And next week we're going to be keeping the party going with like the rapid fire stuff with Jen. Yes, thank you, Max, for putting that up there. We'll see Jen next week, and it will be more this kind of like just like for beginners, people that aren't as familiar with Red Giant, kind of showing you like what we can do. But thank you all so much for like your energy. Keanu, it was like so great having you, and I hope to have you on another show soon. We could dig more in like particular or whatever.
Yeah, let's go in deep and like actually use footage and implement that and like right from the beginning, because I think I can speak for my community. I think not a lot of people are really experienced or have any experience with Red Giant. So I think that the basic steps that you don't even think about, I think those are actually super important for us to really understand how to achieve those results. Just those basic stuff for you that you didn't even think about. I think to get actually through those and talk about them would be super helpful.
Yeah, I think I went pretty fast. So yeah, going slow and backing up would probably be a really good idea for a lot of folks. That's great.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you don't have to prepare that much.
Sorry. What I want to say is that we're rooting to see your content with Red Giant.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. Man, it's so cool.
Thank you so much. Right?
Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you next week.
See you all.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.